Hi, and I would like to welcome you to Shannie Loves Reading Corner. Today, we are reading a short story from Edgar Allen Poe's bedside companion titled A Dream. A few evenings since I laid myself down for my night's repose. It has been a custom with me for years past to pursue a portion of the Scriptures before I close my eyes in the slumbers of the night. I did so in this present instance. By chance, I fell upon the spot where inspiration has recorded the dying agonies of the God of nature. Thoughts of these and the scenes which followed his giving up the ghost pursued me as I slept. There is certainly something mysterious and incomprehensible in the manner in which the wild imageries of the imagination often arrange themselves, but the solution of this belongs to the physiologist rather than the reckless dreamer. It seemed that I had some Faries, returning from the scene of death. I had assisted in driving the sharpest nails through the palms of him who hung on the cross, a spectacle of the bitterest woe that mortality ever felt. I could hear the groan that ran through his soul, as the rough iron grated on the bones when I drove it through. I retired a few steps from the place of execution, and turned round to look at my bitterest enemy. The Nazarene was not yet dead. The life lingered on the mantle of clay, as if it shuddered to walk alone through the valley of death. I thought I could see in the cold damp that settles on the brow of the dying, now standing in large drops on his. I could see each muscle quiver, the eye that began to lose its luster in the hollow stare of the corpse. I could hear the low gurgle in his throat. A moment, and the chain of existence was broken, and the link dropped into eternity. I turned away and wandered listlessly on, till I came to the center of Jerusalem. A short distance rose the lofty turrets of the temple. Its golden roof reflects rays as bright as the source from which they emanated. A feeling of conscious pride stole over me, as I looked over the broad fields and lofty mountains which surrounded this pride of the eastern world. On my right rose Mount Olivet, covered with shrubbery and vineyards. Beyond that, and bounding the skirts of mortal vision, appeared mountains piled on mountains, and on the left were the lovely plains of Judea, and I thought it was a bright picture of human existence, as I saw the little brook Cedron speeding its way through the meadows to the distant lake. I could hear the gay song of the bestious maiden, and she gleaned in the distant harvest field, and mingling with the echoes of the mountain was heard the shrill whistle of the shepherd's pipe, as he called the wandering lamb to its fold. A perfect loveliness has thrown itself over animated nature. But a change soon came over the spirit of my dream. I felt sudden coldness creeping over me. I instinctively turned towards the sun, and saw a hand slowly drawing a mantle of crape over it. I looked for stars, but each one had ceased to twinkle, for the same hand had enveloped them in the badge of mourning. The silver light of the moon did not dawn on the sluggish waves of the Dead Sea, as they sang the hoarse requiem of the cities of the plain. But she hid her face, as if shuddering to look on what was doing on the earth. I heard a muttered groan, and the spirit of darkness spread upon his pinions over the astonished world. Unutterable despair now seized me. I could feel the flood of life slowly flowing back to its mountain. And the fearful thought stole over me, and the day of retribution had come. Suddenly I stood before the temple. The veil which had hid its secrets of unhallowed gaze was now rent. I looked for a moment. The priest was standing by the altar, offering up expiatory sacrifice. The fire which was to kindle the mangled limbs of the victim gleamed for a moment on the distant walls, and then was lost in utter darkness. He turned around, to rekindle it from the living fire of the candlestick, but that too was gone. It was still nothing but a sculpture. I turned and rushed to the street. The street was vacant. No sound broke the stillness except the yell of the wild dog, who revealed on the half-burnt corpse in the valley of Haining. I saw a light stream from the distant window, and made my way towards it. I looked in at the open door. A widow was preparing the last morsel she could glean of her dying babe. She had kindled a little fire, and saw with what utter hopelessness of heart she beheld the flames sink away, like her own dying hopes. Darkness covered the universe. Nature mourned, for its parents had died. The earth had enrobed itself in habiliments of sorrow. and the heavens were clothed in the sables of morning. I now roamed in restlessness, and heeded not whither I went. At once there appeared a light in the east, a column of light which shot athwart the gloom, like the light shone gleams of the darkness of the midnight of the pit. It illuminated the sober murkiness that surrounded me. There was an opening in the vast arch of heaven's broad expanse. With wandering eyes I turned towards it. Far into the wilderness of space, at a distance that only be meted by the line running parallel with eternity, but still awfully plain and distinct, appeared the same person who I had clothed with the mock purple of royalty. He was now garmented in the robe of the King of the Kings. He sat on his throne, but it was not one of whiteness. There was a mourning in heaven, for as each angel knelt before him, I saw the wreath of immortal amaranth which circled his brow was changed from one of cypress. I turned to see whither I had wandered. I had come to the burial ground of the monarchs of Israel. I gazed with trembling limbs as I saw the clods of covered and mouldering bones of some tyrant begin to move. I looked at where the last monarch had been laid, and in all the splendor and pageantry of death, and the sculptured monument began to tremble. Soon it was overturned, and from it issued the tenant of the grave. It was hideous, unearthly form, such as Dante, in its wildest flight and terrifying fancy. Never conjured up, I could not move, for terror had tied up violation. It approached me. I saw the grave worm twining itself amongst the matted locks which in part covered the rotten skull. The bones creaked on the author as they moved on the hinges, for its flesh was gone. I listened to their horrid music, as this parody on poor mortality stalked along. He came to me, and as he passed, he breathed the cold damps of the lonely narrow house directly in my face. The chasm in the heavens closed, and, with a convulsive shudder, I awoke. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned tomorrow for our next reading. Thank you for tuning in.